Good morning. Welcome to the Finance, Insurance, and Admin Building Committee. Today we have several items on the agenda and need to get through them. We have appointed official city attorney Paul Jensen, Councilman Joe Hockett, Public Safety Commissioner Justin Day will be here in a few minutes, and then Public Works Director Troy Kruger is here as well. And then we have a visitor in the audience too. So the first item on the list is Alma Small is here to request a donation for her powwow in May 17th through the 19th, 2024. I did give you her budget that she had printed, or that she has ready for you, which also has our bill in there. And then in this packet that you do have what was budgeted for donations this year as well. It'll be the non-departmental page number 2 of the budget reports. Alma, if you wouldn't mind going up to the podium, and you're up.
I'm Alma Small. I'm doing my 16th annual graduation powwow, and I'd like to have a donation. I gave out a budget. And last year, I think you guys donated $700 towards the event. This year, the building to rental building is $850. Now, could you guys take back your donation and just donate the building for me for the 3 days? Would that be possible?
So, Councilman Hockett, you have in her report the invoice, and as well in your report, in what I gave you the invoice as well. We did donate. You as council did write a check out for $750 last year to Alma and the powwow.
Yeah.
It's my understanding, Alma, you were never able to host that powwow last year. Multiple things happened, all of that. There was nothing, because nothing was ever hosted, and we did write the check. Council did not budget for anything for this year for the powwow. With that being said, there is another option that you can do, very similar to what she just asked, if you would choose to. This came up in a Parks Committee meeting a couple weeks ago, where another company, nonprofit, wanted to do some rentals up for a couple hours a day, and ultimately we bill it out, and then at the end of it they can come back and request that council waive those fees. So that is always an option as well. Then there's no check written. It just also shows that we never received the revenue, so there's no back and forth and no paper trail, but it is another option since it was not budgeted for, if that's what council would choose to do.
Excuse me, we did have two small powwows, one for Thanksgiving and one for Christmas, and we did, and I paid for the rental of it. So that's where the money that we were saving for that, that's where that went.
You ultimately used that.
Yes,
for the powwow.
Yeah, and for food and Christmas gifts and stuff for the children for Christmas.
Yeah, I think the council would be willing to, the option that you described, bill it out, and then it comes to us, and then we could choose to, waive that fee. I think that sounds like no money changing hands. It sounds like a better option, I think. But I think we could do that. I mean, it is a community event in our community. It's a good event, and I think that the council would probably be willing to go with that.
Only thing I would ask for, and we are doing this with that other group as well, is that the deposit is still paid in case there's any accidents that happen, and you can deduct from that. So I guess what that would mean, Alma, the deposit is $175, so I would need that up front.
Okay.
And then obviously if there's no issues, you get the deposit back, and so that wouldn't be an issue. The remainder of it, then after the powwow, you can come in and ask the council in a full council meeting if they would waive that charge for you, and then they can make that decision in a full council meeting.
Okay.
So it would just be Oh, because of the time frame of this, it would probably be that first meeting of June that you would come back to council and ask for them to waive it. So out of pocket up front would be the 175, and then obviously if everything's fine after the powwow, then that would go back to you, and then the remainder you could ask council to waive.
Okay. Now, this last powwow we had, the Christmas, the janitor said no cleaning, but we went ahead and cleaned it. She said that was her job.
Oh, sure.
But we took all the garbage out and
Yep.
mopped it and stuff, so.
So I apologize for that miscommunication. Ultimately, you're supposed to leave it the same way you found it. So yes, if you've got garbage or you've brought something in, yes, you are supposed to clean that up. No, I'm not gonna ask you to scrub the floors. That is, their job is to scrub the floors. But yes, if you bring garbage in, you have food, any of that, we do ask that you take that out. And that is in the rental contract as well. So I apologize for that miscommunication.
Okay.
And I appreciate that you did that. And I believe that the heat and everything is fixed. The first time it was, our system was completely broke. Mr. Kruger was able to fix it for us later on. We had some other people come in. I have no idea what happened that second weekend.
Yeah.
Just a couple weeks ago that you hosted.
Yeah.
It worked just fine that Monday, so I'm not sure what happened over the weekend.
Okay, yeah,
But-
because there was no heat at all.
yeah, that's strange. We have it locked, so nobody can go in and shut it off, but we'll make sure, well, hopefully by then, we won't need heat in the middle of the night.
I know, it'd be cooling dead, but.
Yeah. There is
I
no
know
AC,
that
I cannot help you there.
I know the girls that were dancing, it was, they were pretty warm, but the babies were cold.
Sure.
Okay,
All right, thank you,
I
Alma.
will see you later, and thank you.
Yep.
See you.
I'm gonna go ahead and skip, since we have Justin and Troy here, to item number 3. The managed IT proposals. So, I did put them on your page in order of how they were received, in order of who I received first, the order they were received, excuse me. We received 5 proposals. Workforce, which is formerly known as Direct Technologies.
Is that normal, receiving 5?
All of them were very surprised that we received that many. I did send it to 4, because there were 4 that had already been courting us, so to speak. 2 that we already use, and 2 that had started courting us. The 5th one saw it online and wanted to propose as well.
I'm gonna be a nitpicker.
Yeah,
Is workforce the same as workplace?
I'm sorry, yes, workplace.
Thank you. I just didn't know what to be looking for.
No, it's me, I'm the problem.
Good. Thank you.
Workplace, formerly known as Direct Technologies, Direct Companies, they bought out Workplace approximately 8 months to a year ago. Workplace has been around since the beginning of managed IT. I actually had a meeting with their people who started Workplace back in the 90s in Sioux Falls when I was there once for a doctor's appointment, and I was very impressed by what they had to say. It's very different than what we currently have. Right now, we're paying a per unit price. They give us a flat rate, and everything's included in that flat rate. Every time we call them, whether it's the doors, the cameras, whatever, all of that is included in their flat rate. The only thing that's not included in that flat rate would be if we need to order a piece of equipment. We order a new computer, we order a new camera, obviously then we would have to pay the extra there because that's adding on to what we currently have in contract with. So that's Workplace. And let me also say, all 5 of these proposals are completely, crazily different. They are not at all in any way, shape, or form the same. So with Workplace, they gave us 2 quotes, 2 proposals. The first proposal was just for finance, public works, code enforcement, which is what they currently cover.
Yep.
The second one was for the city of Winter as a whole. They did not quote individually the law enforcement center. They felt because of the securities that go along with the law enforcement center, they were more comfortable saying, yes, we'll take the law enforcement center, but we'd like to have the city of Winter as a whole if we're going to take that, not just that one chunk. So that's how Workforce quoted. KT Connect, they are one of the ones that was courting us. They are from Rapid City. They quoted the main office, which is Public Works, Finance, Code Enforcement, as one quote. They quoted law enforcement as a quote, and they quoted the City of Winter as a whole. There is an onboarding cost with them too, which is absolutely normal. Most of these have an onboarding cost if they're not someone they're currently utilizing. So for workplace, their onboarding cost would only be with the law enforcement center if they were awarded the entire City of Winter. KT Connect broke it down into each department as to how much they would pay for an onboarding cost. What onboarding is ultimately that gets them onto our system, lets them see everything, determine the age of everything, determine if, yep, we need to put this on here, we need to put this on here. It also gets them the software onto our system so that they can daily monitor it. They have, I believe all of these have gone through and said they will do quarterly trainings with us, quarterly reporting with us. Most of them said, yes, you require quarterly, but we actually would be calling you monthly to go through that. Another thing that we required is that they sit down with us during the budget season and they very clearly define, okay, this computer is out of date, you need to budget for this next year, we're gonna tell you why, and then if we need them to, they'll come to the budget meetings with us and tell council why we need this.
I would think that would be a major role of a consulting services to keep us up and running and to keep ahead of the curve.
Correct.
If we need to replace infrastructure, things, it would be, in my view, I don't know much about it, but it'd be, in my view, that they would do that
Yes.
and keep us apprised.
The third option we received is the local company, Cybertech. They gave us a quote for Public Works Finance. They were only willing to quote out 1 year for Public Works Finance. They were willing to do 3 years on Law Enforcement Center, and so there are 2 different prices there for those. Law Enforcement Center, I think at $86.50. Public Works at $107.50 with finance at that same too. So, like I said, they've all quoted so differently that there is no.
Is there a way to compare apples to apples when the council makes this decision?
Yes, so
Okay,
we
good.
have a third party. Michael Hoffman is our third party.
Thank God.
Yes,
Okay.
who has received all of these.
Okay,
So when it comes to price, yes, that plays a role, but it's only 30%
Yeah.
of our decision.
Yep.
There are multiple other areas
Sure.
that will play a role into this. How involved will you be? How quickly can you be here if there is a catastrophe?
Yes.
How quickly, how many people do you have that can
That's
work on our
huge.
system if multiple levels go down? So let's say public safety is having an issue and public works is having an issue. Do you have somebody who can work on both of them? So those are all things that we're going to look at, and we have a chart for you, seeing as how Mr. Clay has very clearly defined that you are going to be sitting in on these interviews, Mr. Hockett. So,
that's what I hear.
so anyways, Michael Hoffman will be reviewing all of these and telling us, number one, did they quote everything that we asked for in the RFP? So in the RFP, we said we need every unit covered that we have, which is every PC,
Yes.
every NVR, which is what controls our cameras, and our door controls, because safety was part of this too.
Yes.
So if they did not quote on that, ultimately, technically, that would throw them out of interviews. However, let's have that conversation with them. We can easily fit 5 in there just to see if they're willing to put that onto it. You know, maybe they didn't ask enough questions, maybe something. So I still think we should interview all 5. That's my opinion, since they're all 5 so different. Marco is out of Sioux Falls. They are one that I was not really looking at all until 2 major cities over east told me that they had gone to them and they absolutely loved them. Those 2 cities were Del Rapids and Brandon. Both have Tyler Technologies, which is what our main system is over here, and Marco is actually very, very comfortable with the Vigilon, which is what all of our cameras throughout the city is too. So I did send this to them, and they did, in response, reply back and wanted to quote. Price-wise, because of course that's the only thing I really understand in any of these contracts right now is the monies. They're willing to waive all onboarding costs. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm
Do
just
they
letting
make
you
it
know.
up then, down the road on the other?
Their monthly fee is also the cheapest. So that's why I'm saying I'm glad Michael's here, because Michael can tell me if everything's included in that price too. So, and this is a proposal. These are all public
Yes.
information. Anyone can come look at it. So if Workplace wants to look at Marco's proposal,
They can.
technically they can.
Yeah.
There are a few things that in the proposals they said was proprietary to them, their contracts. They don't want everyone to read their contracts, which I agree
Yeah.
until we've accepted that contract. It isn't public information, but their proposal to us ultimately would be. And then the fifth one is the one that I did not send this to them. They contacted me because they saw it published, and that is Golden West. So, as a little bit of history, Joe,
Yep.
for years and
Good.
years and years and years, we had no such thing as managed IT. We had Golden West come and fix everything that broke for us. They fixed our server. Well, as a matter of fact, at one point in time, we didn't even have Golden West, we had Ronnie Phillips.
Yep.
And she was a dispatch or she was in charge of dispatch, plus the front desk area, all of that. And then she was also our IT. Obviously, that was too much.
I remember those days.
And
Yep.
so, I mean, she rebuilt our server in here after we got hacked. Then Golden West rebuilt our server, and then DT built our server. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and we are no longer just a one-man stop for the entire city of Winter. We've talked about the ability to just hire someone, but we're a 24/7 operation. To have someone here 24/7 isn't feasible. We couldn't afford that. So we'd be looking at probably 2 full-time people. Also, we know that in the city of Winter, we're not necessarily right where we should be. Are we light years ahead of where we were 5 years ago? Yes.
I agree.
We just did a $500,000+ expansion down at the jail with your IT. We just did some major revamp in the finance office. Public Works has done some revamps down there. We finally have cameras, I think, that work throughout the city, right, Troy? So, you know, we're getting there, but I don't know that we're to the point that an employee can handle it all. I think in 3 years,
Maybe.
we have the right people come in and manage it, but we will see. So I am not expecting you guys to read all of this today. You've got 5 very thick packets there. What the RFP did say was that we would conduct interviews of the choosing. We decided, and when I say we, I'm going to say Paul and I and Jody had this conversation. We're not all on the same page as appointeds on this. And it's not out of spite, it's not out of anything, it's just law enforcement is his world, and that's where he takes control. Finance is my world, that's where I take control. Public Works is his. We all have different opinions on what each department needs. So we did ask that the Finance Committee be involved in this too, as well as Michael helping us as that outside third party. And that way we can get a good view of what's best for the city of Winter across the whole. So that's why we asked the Finance Committee to sit in on this. Otherwise, it probably just would have been appointed. But because we all have such different ideas on what's, to me, if somebody hacks our system in the finance office and can get somebody's social security number, that's extremely dangerous. To him, in his world, if somebody hacks it and gets a prisoner information, extremely dangerous. I don't know what's extremely dangerous in your world. I don't know your world, so sorry. But the water system, somebody hacks the water system, that's probably pretty dangerous. So all of those things need to go into play. We have
Competing, yeah.
a lot of questions that we asked them. They all answered all of the questions from what I could tell. So, and all of those answers are in your packets that you have. What we do need is we need to set a date that works for everyone to have them come in for interviews. We're looking at Thursday, Friday next week, March 28th or 29th. I think we need probably 45 minutes to an hour with each one of them, with 15 to 20 minutes in between. Troy has been through this before. Actually, I think Justin did one other time too. The last time we went out for RFP with engineers, it'd be very, very similar to that. But we need to get these interviews done so that we can be done with this and get our managed IT and move forward. I asked Mr. Clunt what his schedule looked like, and I haven't heard from him, but I believe he's driving, so What does your schedule look like?
Either day, I'll be in Pier, but I'll come back for that, but either day would be okay. There's, would be really no difference for me. I could come back the 28th or the 29th.
Okay.
Not a big deal.
What about for you, Troy? You're open? Okay.
I'm charging my phone with my calendar in my office, so I will let you know. I
One thing
can,
I said you needed to be here for.
we can probably, 28th or 29th, we should be
Okay.
fine
Okay.
to have some people here.
Yeah, either one, just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, do you want 60 minutes or 45 minutes? How much do you want to limit them to?
I think there's maybe one issue to talk about, and I don't know who's gonna make this decision, but, and that's the question of whether you want to take the time to interview all 5.
That's true. It's my opinion to do all 5. If you guys don't want to do all 5, that's up to you. You do not have to. We do need to do.
I'm
3.
happy doing all 5, I
Yeah.
just wanted to throw that out there, so you.
Minimum 3.
Yeah, my feeling is, they've shown an intense interest. Why not give them all a shot? I think that'd be fair and equitable to everybody. That's just my thoughts. An extra hour and a half ain't gonna make no difference to me in the interview, so.
I'll bring food.
That way everybody
So you guys
feels
aren't
good about it.
starving.
Okay, thank you. But everybody would feel good about it, if they at least had a chance to listen to the
Yeah.
proposal, and they can't go away saying, oh, they screened me out before, blah, blah, blah. You know how that goes.
Yeah?
I think it'll take an hour
Okay.
by the time when you start asking specific questions and you get off, and I mean, we've done a couple of these now, and an hour goes by pretty quick.
It does. It really does.
Yeah,
I'm happy with the hour as well. Put 20 minutes in between each one of them. I think last time we used every second in between because they ran over or came early or whatever, so.
expected, yeah.
Yeah, so I will absolutely bring food too, because we'll probably start around 11 a.m. Since they're traveling, I'm not gonna be here first thing in the morning. I don't know, maybe I do, maybe they'll be on their game. But,
You can try and do it all in one day.
yes,
Those dates work for all these people?
yes. They were aware that those were the dates that we were gonna be looking at. So if they don't work, then I guess they just shot themselves, because that date was in the RFP.
And is it a possibility to maybe start at 10?
Well-
Because we do have a local one.
Yeah, but
If-
we'll go at 10, we could do them at 10, and then.
Yeah, and then go
Okay.
10, 11, 12.
Sure. Before then, Michael, and he's reviewing these, he would like to, early next week or end of this week, either Friday of this week or Monday of next week, sit down and go through and just make sure that everything is there that needs to be there, and if there's something that catches his eye. I don't think Finance Committee necessarily needs to be involved in on that, but I didn't want him in on the interviews. I feel like he doesn't get to make a decision, he's just here to advise us.
Yes.
So if he sees something sketchy in these or whatever, he'll advise us of that, or if they didn't quote accordingly to that, then he'll let us know, so then we can say, hey, you didn't quote on this, why not? So, I mean, when I get that set up with Michael, do you guys want to sit in on with Michael too, to hear what he has to say about those particulars? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, I will let you know. Are you here Friday and Monday? You as well?
God willing.
Okay, all right, so we'll get that Friday or Monday. Find out with him. Okay. Now you guys have lots of homework to go through all of those. And don't feel bad if you don't understand it all. There's a lot of jargon in there, and when they were asking me questions, I'm like, I don't know how much RAM is on my server. So, a lot of good questions. KT Connect did come down. They actually put boots on the ground twice to look at our stuff, which was very nice that they felt they made that. And actually, they delivered it in person too. So they've been to Winter now 3 times in the last month and a half just to look at our stuff and meet us.
Interesting.
Obviously, Workplace is already here. We have a very good working relationship with them, and then CyberTech is very familiar with the jail down there. So Marco has not been here before. I don't know if they ever even called law enforcement center and asked any questions or not. I think for the most part, they went off of what was provided to them, so. And I guess Golden West is familiar with what we used to have. I don't know how familiar they are with anything that we currently have, so. Other than our phone system is through Golden West, so I guess they know that one. Okay,
Okay.
that's what I have for that.
Do
Go
any
ahead.
of these, I mean, obviously, Cybertech, right here in town, but do any of these other ones, will they have anybody?
They are all willing to consider getting someone local to help them. They don't necessarily have someone at this moment because they didn't want to tell someone, hey, we've got this great opportunity, and then they don't get it. But they are all willing, everyone that I spoke to anyways, is willing to try to find someone to be here. Whether full-time or part-time, don't know, but they are willing to consider it. But I think that's a great question to make sure and ask them during the interview process.
That's a make or break for us.
Okay? That's what I had on that. I do have a few other things. You guys are more than welcome to stay if you want to listen. I don't care, but that's what I had on this.
I don't think that includes you. I think you have to stay.
No, yeah, Joe, you have to stay, sorry, and Paul.
Sorry, Joe.
See you later, man.
Wait.
Have a great day out there. What's that?
See you hate to be in kind of thing?
Authorized signatures and pre-printed signatures.
Ah, yes.
So, obviously, there's been some changes in the finance office. We have a new deputy finance officer. We clearly defined what that job description is.
Yep.
With that, there's always that changing of bank signatures. So we started looking at it because I wasn't sure if we had policy or ordinance or anything that said, clearly defined who the signatures are on the bank. Because if I'm gone, should my deputy be signing the checks because technically she's writing the checks? Is that a conflict? So Paul and I were looking into this. The only place it mentions in ordinance about finance officer pre-authorization of signing is the pre-authorization of expenses. And that's an ordinance, and it says all authorized prepayments will be paid through a check signed by the mayor, the president of the city council, or the vice president of the city council, the finance officer, or the deputy. It's the only place that it says that. The only other place I found it was within my job description and the deputy finance officer description must be able to be a co-signer on all warrants written by the city. So, and I think that's fine that it's in our job descriptions. I don't have an issue with that. But I just wanted to make sure that that's where we want things to stay, is that it's the mayor or those that have been elected by the council to be president, vice president, the deputy, or the deputy finance officer. One way around this that our system does have is we can actually have, when she prints the checks, it can print our signatures on them. Yesterday's a prime example. Joe, we needed a signature on a check that needed to be rewritten because it had been lost in the mail, and that company wanted it right away. Wasn't able to get a hold of one person, another person was out of town. Thankfully, Mr. Hockett was here so he could come in and sign the check for us, but it could help alleviate some of that. The payrolls, we could get them sent out right away after the fact. Are we super late on these? No, I mean, it's not a huge deal. But I do want it to be understood that the deputy finance officer in the current situation is the one writing the checks. And if that person happens to be gone, I am the one writing the checks, which means I am writing them, signing them.
Yep.
Or she is writing them, signing them. And so that's not something we've ever been in trouble on. It's the notation we get every year, lack of segregation of duties. It's not a major note, it's not anything like that, but it is a note that we will always have. We've tried to get away from it, we just cannot. So it's always going to be a thing. And does it happen very often that the same person writing it signs it? No, hardly ever. But it might happen once a year. I like the pre-printed signatures in the fact of it can make things a lot easier, which, by the way, I'm assuming my accounts payable will have some more checks for you to sign because she's printing last night's claims list. And since you're the only one here, But
That's what you get for showing up today, Joe.
I know.
I do like the checks and balances of it. So when the mayor and myself sign those claims lists, we go through the claims list with the checks beside it and we check each one of them off
Yeah.
and double check them.
And I like personally, I like that level of separation there.
Okay.
Myself, I just feel more comfortable about that. If you get a wayward soul, I'm not have any, I've experienced other things when they have total access, can write the checks, sign the checks and everything, some bad things could happen quickly, but I myself like the way it is now.
Okay. And that once a
Person.
year possibility of maybe writing them in, signing them,
Yeah,
isn't that big of a
and-
deal? Yeah, because we still have one of you sign them as
Yeah,
well.
I'm,
So
like I
it's
said,
not just on
I'm in
us.
town most of the time, and
Yeah.
I'm willing to come down anytime.
No, all of you have been great. It's very, very rarely that we
Yep.
don't have someone who can come and sign,
Yep.
since we have that, if he's not available this one, if they're not available this one, so. I'm okay with that, I just wanted everyone to be aware it
Okay.
is a possibility.
Yep.
Typically, I would honestly usually side towards let's let technology take care of it. In this case, I kinda wanna argue the opposite. I like that personal ability to say, yes, I checked this off according to the
Yeah,
checks, and I do, I check it off and then I sign it at the top that I have looked at all of them.
It's one more level of control that maybe could
Yep.
head off some things, bad things down the road.
Yep.
To me, that's why I look at it.
That's why I like it, cause it's
And
control.
by operating on basically a checklist system,
Yes.
you avoid errors. You do.
Yeah, no, yeah, the errors would be fewer, I think, yes.
City office phones.
Let's stop for a
Yeah.
second. Just pondering the fact that that's our one entry in ordinance that talks about signing checks. There's a question that my brain is kicking in that says, don't we need something more than just that?
That's up to you. I don't know.
From a finance officer's standpoint,
Oh,
Yeah.
I love to have things black and white and in writing, so I'm all for it.
yeah,
I don't know if legally we have to have it, but I'm absolutely not against it. Where would you would just write a separate ordinance ultimately under general provisions that these are the people authorized to sign checks?
correct, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How many signatures are required? What's the process? Who's involved?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So state law says 2 signatures required.
Mhm.
There's a lot of companies out there that say if it's less than 500, you don't have to do that. It's my understanding with government entities, you still have to do it no matter what. I've not found
I
where
would
it
think so.
excludes us from that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it also, state law actually says your mayor and your finance officer are the 2 people that have to sign. We understand that sometimes we're not both always here.
Well, and there's always provision in law that provides for a designation. The mayor can designate one or more
Yes.
people to stand in his shoes, so to speak. You can designate your deputy,
Yep.
that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm fine with it being an ordinance. How do you?
I don't want to be duplicative, I'm just wondering if you'd run into any situation where we really felt like we know what we're doing and we're doing it this way, but there's nothing in law that says this is how we should be doing it. That's the question I'm asking.
Up until a week ago, I assumed it was already in our ordinances. So that's why I was surprised this was the only place I could find it.
Yeah,
Ours, as far as mine and the deputy, is clearly defined in a job description, which is an adopted policy. But I don't think it hurts to say that the city of Winter is authorizing the president and the vice president to do that. And the other thing would be, our bank, every year, when we potentially may or may not switch president, vice president, which this year they're both up for election. So they require the minutes stating that they were elected as president and vice president by the council so that they can add their names as signatures. So having that ordinance would be a benefit to us.
and maybe I'm getting ahead of the curve here, but foreseeing what I consider to be the probability that we in not too distant future might be using credit card for payment of city bills. That's really not covered at all in our policy. And
Not in this one, there's a credit card resolution that we
there is
have.
resolution, yes. But I'm just sitting here thinking we should probably define the probabilities and possibilities, so to speak, about what we need to be authorized to do, so that if council gets the opportunity, you know, if we could start making $50,000 a year for the city by who you're paying through, that's probably gonna make sense.
So if we go to doing that, which is a possibility with our current credit card provider, and would get cash back for utilizing it that way, I think it's still, I hadn't thought about doing it for anything other than what the prepayment authorized expenses already are, because MRES in and of itself will get us quite a bit of cash back just with that one, because that's a pretty large one.
Yeah.
But there are cities out there that have very few checks that they write anymore, and almost everything is paid off of that credit card. Again, it comes back to, as you said, the control.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we struggle getting receipts turned in for the few times that we use credit cards now. We've got some out there from February that still don't have receipts, so now the credit cards are threatening to, you know.
See, that's the thing, you gotta keep up on.
Correct.
on
Yep.
all that, or it's gonna balloon up and you gain nothing, really.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's,
So-
that raises a good point, though, because there's more to it than just who's authorized to sign.
Yeah, yep,
What it can be used for.
yes.
And the process, yeah.
I am not ready to utilize
Okay.
the credit card for anything other than what is currently being utilized for,
Okay.
because, and when I say I'm not ready, the city of Winter is not ready.
Yes.
We don't have our current process figured out yet after 10 years. I'm not ready to move forward with it until that's figured out.
Makes
So,
sense.
That's good common
Yep.
sense.
Would it be beneficial? Yes. I love these new credit cards that we have from First Interstate. I can go on and let's say there is something out there, you're gone to a conference and your hotel costs, right now, all of them, except for one, have $1,000 limit on it, which is pretty close to what we had on our other
Oh,
ones.
wow, yeah.
But we do have the ability to take from one and move it to another if, let's say, we know that this Public Works one is not being used at all and it's still sitting in the office, but they need to pay for $1,200 worth of rooms. I can move $200 from this one to that one, and it's just a temporary move, and then I can move it back as soon as that's paid. So I love that we've got some of that control in there.
Yeah.
And then, once they hit that 1,000, they're done, unless they come in and ask, hey, here's the situation, here's what's
Yeah.
going on.
Special circumstances.
It's all on one statement, and it is not tied to anyone's name. So if you'll remember the claims list for the last umpteen years, it's been still Shander Widener, and it was Lori Kalinda. It took us a long time even to get Mr. Sheets' name off of there,
Right.
but it was tied to our names.
Yep.
We had to use our social security numbers to log in
Was
to look at
crazy.
the Wells Fargo credit cards.
Yeah.
And they were all under different statements. This is all one statement. It is not
Yeah, that
tied to
makes
any
sense.
name. Any City of Winter employee can use it that we've authorized it to.
Much better.
I love it. Plus, we have a cash back on there too.
Yep.
So because we do not have a bank account with First Interstate, at this point in time, the cash back will just automatically go towards our last bill that we have with them. So then it'll get used on December's bill at that point in time, once they've issued it out to us. If we had an account with them, they could give us cash for it, but that's their rules, that they say, we're not gonna give you just cash unless you have a bank account with us. And that's because they're a bank and they want you to have money with them. I get that, but we'll still get the cash back. It'll just be onto our credit card statement at the end of the year. So it's still a benefit, and I guess if we sit there with a credit on the account for a while because we're not using it for a couple months out of the year, that's fine. We can, I say, we can figure that out in the finance office. Ask me again when we actually have to do it in a few months. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
City office phones. So, it's been an issue since we went live with the new system. Not everyone loves our answering system in the finance office. As you know, during budget season, I asked for an extra employee, whether part-time, full-time, whatever, someone who could sit at that front desk and that be their primary job, to answer the phones, to transfer calls, to all these things. So some history for everyone. One of the main reasons that we went with this system is everyone calls City Hall for everything. If they have a water break, they call us. If they want to know why the street light's not working, they call us. If they want this, 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 and this, they call us. There was confusion, contention, whatever you want to call it, between departments of, why are they calling you? You're not the one who fixes it. We're the ones who fix it. They need to call us. Well, when somebody would call us and we'd say, I'm sorry, not our department. I need you to call such and such department, the streets department, whatever. They would say, nope, you're who I pay my bill to. You're who I'm calling. I'm not going to hang up and call somebody else. Okay. So then we would take the message. We would forward it on to the next person, whether through email or written note or what have you. But that's not always the greatest communication. So it could get maybe not delivered through email or on a paper note. If you've been in my office before, they can get lost very easily, slip behind the desk, slip under a different piece of paper. So then we came up with this phone system where they can choose who they talk to. If you have an issue with Public Works, call Public Works. If you have an issue with Public Safety, push this number to call Public Safety. Mayor and council's on there. If you want to talk to your councilman, press 9, and then you choose which person you want to talk to from there. The biggest, and I think they were getting used to that. I do think that the public was starting to understand that, but the biggest complaint that I've heard, and I believe Mayor and Council has been hearing, is when they call, they don't get an answer. It goes straight to a machine. So I tried to fix it myself, and just have it forwarded directly to somebody's phone number, to a different extension. However, every time we went to use that front desk phone, it would stop the forwarding. Because there are times, sometimes one of us is sitting up there helping somebody or making a phone call because we're up there. And so anytime we pick that phone up, it would delete the forwarding that I had put on there. So I do have an email into Golden West to have it permanently, this extension is who will always get the first call. If that person is unavailable, then it will go to the front desk and you can leave a message. I have advised my staff, if they're only gone for one day, I don't want you to change your voicemail. It's one day, typically 24 hours. Most problems can be handled within that time. If it is over 24 hours that you are going to be gone, put it on your voicemail. I'm sorry, I'm away from my desk from this day to this date. If you need to talk to someone before then, please call this extension and talk to them, in an effort to hopefully be able to communicate with people better and get those calls answered in a more quick fashion. I will say that the phone is not near as busy as it was before we went with this system, because we wanted to see. The first day we did it, I asked, I said, I want you to keep track of how many phone calls you get. Maybe 5 more than original, but I also have heard people have stopped calling us altogether because they're so mad at the system. So maybe we'll start getting more phone calls when they know they'll get a person to pick up. Most of the time, please understand, we do have people at our desks from time to time. We do have meetings that we have to go to, so we're not always available. And I don't have someone 100% staff to just answer phones. But we are going to make a conscious effort to be better about it. I've had a lot of conversations with the people in the community, council members, and it's not ever that I didn't want to talk to the public. The public is what makes my job. You know, they say responsiveness creates loyalty. Well, they don't really get a choice in who they use for their utilities in the city of Winter or who their government is. We are their choice. So loyalty isn't what I'm looking for until it comes down to, I want their respect. That's what I'm looking for. And respect means a lot more.
Yeah, we want to do the best job we can for the public. That's why we're here.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, to manage
the tax resources in appropriate manner, so. And I've heard those complaints too about the telephone system, I think every councilman has. But I'm glad that you're making some moves to try to, you understand it.
I do.
You understand, when people call here, for them, it's an emergency, not necessarily for you. But each call, if you're concerned enough about a topic that you're gonna grab the phone, call City Hall, you wanna talk to somebody.
Yep.
That's the public, that's what they expect and that's what they want.
Yes.
Not always reasonable, but that's the expectation.
And
So-
knowing that there were gonna be a lot more complaints about bills this month,
Yeah, you do that.
Yes.
I wanted them to feel like they could call. And it's confusing too. I don't have names currently on the answering system. I have their job titles on there. That way, anytime somebody leaves, I don't have to go back in and change the voicemail. So I've been debating if I need to put names on there versus job titles, because not everyone understands what the job title is. I have several people who will press 2 for utility, or for accounts payable, because they want to pay their utility bill. So,
Logic, that's a lot.
I mean, when they say that, I'm like, okay, I guess I get that, but
Yeah.
why didn't you press 1 for utilities? So, but again, we now are utilizing the transfer option as well. We can transfer. I can transfer to any number in the world at this point in time from my office phone. So if they call me and say, hey, I tried to get a hold of Joe, I cannot get a hold of him, can you help me out? I can just put transfer, dial your number, and hang up, and it'll go directly to you. I don't have to tell them we'll call back, press
Yeah.
9, press
That's
4.
good. That's a
It
good
just goes
step.
directly to you. So we're hopeful that this will help with some of the confusion and the concerns that
Yes.
are out in the public. And because I do believe you guys have vetted a lot of them, especially those of you who carried petitions this year and wanted people to vote for you, and I think they told you how they feel about certain things, and I do believe that this was a very high topic in a lot of those,
Yeah.
so. Only other thing I have for today is just to review financials, if you guys have any questions on the ones that are before you. You have the general fund revenues, you have the non-departmental, which is your donations, your mayor and council, your elections, finance office, attorney, and admin building. Granted, we're only like 3 months into the year, but I see nothing that concerns me at this time.
Yeah.
Most of your people wanting donations have been here and requested them, and I don't think there's too many more. Winter Transit might be, yeah, they're the only one until August, when the Legion will come in and ask for their barbecue money, so.
Okay.
Otherwise, everyone was in pretty early this year to make sure they got what they were asking for. I know, seeing as how you don't typically sit on my finance committee, I'll tell you something I've told them before. I do believe that our pool bond will be paid off in 2025. I believe this is the last year that we will budget to pay on that pool bond.
Great.
Which means
That's good, that's a red letter day, that's
Yes.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Council can choose to get rid of the 3B tax if they choose to, or we can utilize it elsewhere. It's very specific what you can utilize 3B tax for. It has to be something economic development or improving your city. This building qualifies. You could use it for this building. You could use it to fund all of your donations too, because that is economic development and growth. So in the 2026 budget year, we'll really be diving in and figuring out what do you want to use that money for. Do you want to use it for, and I think the last time we talked, Austin and Jody felt that it would probably be better from the public standpoint if we're using it for donations. and then whatever's left over from there can come over and help support this building. But, it'll ultimately be a full council decision because of the budget side of things, but just something to think about.
Yep.
That's paying it off a year early, ultimately, is what it's doing. It'll also stop that $60,000 additional property tax bond that we have with the county, so it'll be saving your folks another $60,000 too there.
Yep.
So I'm excited that that'll be done.
Yep.
We've done a lot of work to make sure that we are receiving our 3B taxes. There was a couple years ago that I just didn't feel people were charging the right amount on their taxes. So I actually sent a letter to the state and said, here's all of the places that I am aware of that should be charging that extra 1%. And within 2 months, we shot up several $1,000s a month. So things are starting to level out now. I know I send you guys those sales tax reports every month. We're not growing, really. I guess we did grow maybe $1,000 this time in our 3B. We actually decreased in this time last year to this year in our sales tax, our general sales tax. So I don't know what's causing that, if people are just behind in paying their sales tax because it's that time of year and nobody likes to write that check. I'd be curious to know why that's down. They have stopped on the state side providing me with, last September, I believe is the last time they provided me with how much we are receiving in our sales tax from online sales.
Well, we don't get that anymore?
I don't get that anymore. They stopped in September. It's not on there.
I
So
wonder why.
I don't know if that's part of it, is too many online sales and we're not seeing any of that revenue.
Yeah.
Did the law change and I just am not aware of it? So I need to call someone at Department of Revenue and have that conversation with them.
Yep.
I am posting that report that I send out to you guys every month. I'm posting it on our webpage too. So then anyone from the community that wants to see our last 3 years can see it too.
Yep.
So that they have that ability to have that information. It's just under City of WinterSD.org, finance, and then it says sales tax report. So I love how easy it is to post to our finance, or to our website now. Just makes me so happy. And our support system that we have with it. So for the week and a half I was gone, they had one training on it. They weren't overwhelmingly comfortable to post because they were scared they were gonna screw something up. All we had to do was forward an email to our Drop Time Design and they posted it for us. And there is no extra charge for that. That's
awesome.
part of our annual fee that we pay to them, which is great because we utilize the heck out of her for a week and a half. So I'm excited. I think it's easier to manage. I don't know if you've been out there and looked at our website, our new one yet, Joe. I think it's easier to manage and look at. I hope our community feels it's easier. We have so many more abilities out there. So Summer Help, they're able to go to that website and print off our application right
Yep,
there and look
that's
at that job ad.
Convenience, that's
Yes.
awesome. That's great.
Yep. And let's be real, that's the world that we're in. They'd rather go print something off of a computer than have to call and talk to someone face to face and how do I do this? And so I think it'll benefit us very, very well. Do you have any questions? Did you go
No.
home and really think about the lesson I gave last night? Because I know you were.
It was, I mean, I'm not lying, you just get, and you're going a mile a minute, and I'm trying to follow all that.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good though, no, it's good. Oh, man.
And I appreciated Mr. Clay's comment, or questions. What is CPI? How do we get that? Where do we
Yeah,
get
and
that?
he's doing it, I know why he's doing it, but
Absolutely.
for us sitting here, it does kind of drag the meeting on a little bit, but I understand all that. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
No, I watched the meetings from when I was gone, and I'm like, oh man, I think I need to have a 101 meeting again with finance and council and just explain it, because when you do those supplemental budgets, you are changing the original budget. It is changing your budget.
Yes.
You are changing the source of revenue, and you're changing the source of expenses.
Yes.
And so you are making an adjustment to that budget. So that was one comment that kept getting said, we're not changing the budget, we're not. Yes, you quite literally are changing the budget, which is why you have to do it through an ordinance format.
Yeah.
When you receive a grant, because of all the paperwork, the resolutions, everything that you process, you don't have to do an ordinance for that. You can do a resolution that states, yes, we received this grant, you know, the public was aware of this because we voted on it, that we were going to do this, now we're going to support moving that money over. So the airport is a great place to bring that up. The council signed a contract with Helms to do this project. We applied for the grant, council approved applying for that grant. So all of these different processes, knowing that we have to spend money before you can get money because they're reimbursement grants. I just wanted everyone to be aware, hey, the airport fund is gonna look a little sketchy for a while. It's gonna be in the hole until we start receiving those revenues. And then we can start putting that back in and we can explain why our revenues are so high and our expenses are so crazy. So sometimes I over communicate and sometimes I communicate too quickly. So you can tell me to slow down. But 9:03 means it's time to go, right? And don't forget to sign checks in the office.
I'll go over there, there's probably more, huh?
Oh, yes. Holly did text me and said that they were ready.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Well, Mr. Jensen, go.
Have a wonderful day, Joe.
I'm up.